What's up guys, DK here with Collector's Impact, and today we're going to discuss the topic of chase cards in trading card games and the history of them, the importance of them, and really I've come up with 5 points to share about the importance of chase cards, as there seems to be a lot of debate about chase cards these days, and I wanted to give my opinion on it, share a little bit of history, share a little bit of opinions on this matter. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and define what I personally mean by a chase card. Everybody has their own definition of a chase card in one form or another. For me specifically, it is a card that is desired because it's rare and or useful in the game that it comes from. In other words, a chase card is kind of a card that gives its owner bragging rights, if you will. If you are the owner of a chase card, if you pull it from a pack, if you acquire it somehow, it's kind of a big deal. It makes you happy. It makes other people jealous. It's one of those kind of scenarios. And that, for the majority of card games since Magic the Gathering came out in 1993, it has been a pretty big staple part of a trading card game and the health of a trading card game. Though pretty recently, there's been a lot of debate about the importance of a chase card in terms of having just a truly rare game piece that is essentially not available to all of the players. There's been a lot of controversy and debates over this as to whether or not that lowers the integrity of the actual game itself. In other words, it becomes like a pay-to-play type of game where only the people who have the best collections and the most money can actually compete in the game, and things of that nature. And while I do understand those arguments, I do see the point of view when it comes to you want everybody to have the best cards possible so that they can compete on an even playing field and whatnot. Historically, the whole thing that really gets a trading card game going and keeps stores in business and mass box openings happening and all of these things are the chase cards. So let's dive into this, into the 5 points. All right, point number 1. Chase cards add financial value to the game as a whole. So this is really important when you're actually spending your hard-earned money to build a collection of cards. Essentially, if you get chase cards, or what are perceived to be the chase cards at that time, there's an inherent sense of collectability around those specific cards, and as a person who's paying cash money for the cards or for the packs or whatever, if you get the chase cards, there's an underlying notion that the chase cards will at least have some form of value going into the future, because if they're desired now, if they're useful in the game now, they will have a couple of things. They could potentially be really useful in the game as a whole and therefore age really well. And number 2, there's also a nostalgic factor associated with certain chase cards. Take Charizard, for example. This card was the first card that was really a major chase card from the Pokemon trading card game. So the original versions of it, the Shadowless, the first edition, stuff like that, are still worth a good amount of money today, even though functionally in the game, it's not really that good. But whereas you take something like Time Vault and ban lists and all that kind of stuff aside, Time Vault is still a very good card. 2 mana, and you can start taking extra turns with it under certain conditions. There's no doubt that in Magic the Gathering, this card is still powerful to this very day, and therefore remains a pretty popular chase card, in addition to being rare and reserve list. Either way, the point is that chase cards add a sense of value to the card game as a whole, and therefore they're a very important thing to have for the overall health of a card game. Point number 2. They facilitate and enhance the overall experience that a customer gets when opening product for a card game. So when you're actually on the pursuit of a chase card, when you've paid a lot of money for your booster boxes, booster packs, whatever it is, say that you're a Timmy and you have a regular job and whatnot, and a few $100 for a booster box is going to make a pretty big dent in your overall monthly budget, which it is for me. I don't know about you guys, but it's the same for a lot of the collectors and players out there. When you spend that type of money for a new product, you kind of want to experience it's almost like a scratch lottery ticket, you know what I mean? Like, obviously not advocating those things, as we used to call them scratch and lose tickets, but with trading card games, at least you get to play with whatever you pull. That's why, in my opinion, they're better than scratch lottery tickets, but anyway, that's a different that's a different conversation in and of itself. But still, The presence of chase cards inside of products really does enhance the overall experience of opening the products. If you open a booster box of something and it's a complete failure and you don't get anything that is worth any financial value, that happens. That's cool. But as long as there are chase cards in the set that you have the potential to pull, and I'm not talking about like 1 in 100 in 50,000 boxes like MetaZoo likes to do. That's beyond the level of a chase card. That is what is called, or what I would consider, an ultra lottery card. A chase card for something like MetaZoo or whatever would be something like this foil Mothman. Like, these cards are worth a decent amount of money. They could easily get you 10 sealed booster packs in trade-in value or whatever for something like this. That's kind of what I mean by your standard, typical, brand new chase card style thing. Either way, there can be no doubt that the presence of chase cards in the product is one of the key factors that makes people want to actually open and purchase products. Number 3, they actually promote mass box openings for stores, and they help to lower the overall prices of single cards across the market because it gives more singles to the market, while the chase cards theoretically actually still remain strong within the market. It is a win-win scenario for players, collectors, and stores for there to be actual viable, good chase cards inside of a product, because it encourages the stores to open boxes, which puts singles out on the market, and the singles out on the market allows players to actually snatch up the singles that they need for decks. Rather than having to spend a bunch of money on a booster box as a collector or a player or whatever, open it and then you get a bunch of random cards, at least if the card that you need for your deck is a chase card, it still can be relatively affordable in comparison to actually purchasing, say, multiple booster boxes trying to get the chase card to complete your deck. If you're just a singles purchaser, that's kind of where I look at it in terms of the balance between, you want everything to be cheap and so that you can play on a level playing field and then blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Like, stores doing mass box openings of products is helpful for everybody, and it helps keep the game affordable for the players, and it helps keep the game vibrant and alive for the collectors, as long as there are chase cards in the product. That's obviously the key topic of this video. We're talking about the chase cards in the product and why they're so crucial. Number 4 is probably the most important point, actually, so it's random for it to be in number 4 slot, but whatever. Number 4 is that having chase cards in the product establishes a sense of trust between the company that is manufacturing the cards and keeping up with the game and the customers themselves. Wizards understood this concept in the early days when they started, implementing the reserve list and whatnot. That was pretty much a promissory note to the collectors. They weren't really viewed as investors at that time, but collectors of the old cards that were on the reserve list, they maintain a sense of value, and just knowing that the company isn't going to completely reprint and obliterate the value of your card gives you a nice sense of trust in that company and that brand. Now, why Wizards has gone back on that promissory note is a very interesting topic in and of itself, and I actually did a huge 30-minute discussion on the reserve list already on this channel. If you'd like to see that video, it is very detailed. Definitely check the link in the description if you want to see the discussion on the reserve list. I do recommend that if you're interested. But anyway, the presence of chase cards in the products is definitely more of a promissory agreement between the collectors themselves and the company. So there's a lot of trust there, whether or not it's actually written out on paper in a promissory note style like a reserve list, or whether it's just implied through the presence of the chase cards and them not going too crazy with them in the future. It's still really important either way. And there is a lot of trust that hangs in the balance between the people who are purchasing the products and the companies that are actually making them. Which really leads me to the most important point about chase cards. If the companies start producing, say, I'm gonna pick on MetaZoo a little bit here. This may not be entirely relevant, but if the companies have chase card versions of chase cards as non-foil, lesser rare cards, then it kind of can diminish the overall desirability and or chase for a chase card. You know what I mean? It can essentially make a card not a chase card anymore. If you have common versions of chase cards, then that kind of it negates and cancels what a chase card actually is. And just to throw this out there, when it comes to MetaZoo in particular, since it's such a new product and there's a lot of focus on it right now in the trading card world, the Nightfall set having foil versions and non-foil versions of the same cards, and the massive price disparity between them, for the moment right now, it's okay or whatever. The market seems to be dealing with it just fine. But if the second edition print run of, say, Cryptid Nation, which had a thing called the Obnoxious 9, where they did not have non-holo versions of those cards or reverse holo versions of those cards, they were only available in holographic. If the MetaZoo company starts producing non-foil versions that are available in the packs regularly and things like that of the Obnoxious 9 cards, which were the former chase cards from the first edition expansion, in my opinion, that would be like making common versions of the Charizard card for Pokemon, which Wizards of the Coast did not do. They still haven't done that to this day. They've reprinted the card, they've made different versions of it, but they've never produced like non-holographic. Well, I guess they did in the Legendary Collection, but it was still rare then. But yeah, they never produced like common versions of this Charizard card or any of the other chase cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did that a lot, and that was one of the things that I didn't really like about Yu-Gi-Oh! You notice I don't have too many of them, but some of those cards still withstood the test of time for the original first edition versions and whatnot in the holographics. So it really all comes down to market perception and how the market is going to absorb these cards and what the overall player base actually wants and desires out of the company and out of the sphere and everything for the game. But when it comes to something like MetaZoo, the game is really new. It doesn't have a huge player base. It's very speculative right now. I would personally hope that they err on the side of caution and don't overprint their chase cards. You know what I mean? Same thing with like if Wizards of the Coast just all of a sudden decides to abolish the reserve list and start reprinting Time Vaults, Black Lotuses, Moxes, stuff like that. That would really do some interesting things to the overall marketplace, the community, the trust, all of that. And number 5, the fifth and final point, having chase cards in a trading card game, as in a collectible card game, actually fulfills the genuine need of a collector. So that's really important. They teach you in college and business school and whatnot that needs versus wants are extraordinarily important when you're talking about products and their perceived value in a marketplace. So something that is based on wants versus something that is based on needs, the need is always going to trump a want. And what I mean by this in terms of the chase cards actually fulfilling a need, you may say, DK, these are trading card games. These are not needed products. These are luxury products. No one actually needs to own any trading cards to live their life. You need food, shelter, water, love, yada, yada. They're not a need. Well, in terms of the marketplace, in terms of what these products actually do offer, yeah, having a chase card fulfills a genuine need of a collector. That's the key thing. Not the player, but the collector. And in order for a card game to be healthy, you do need collectors and players. They're usually synonymous, but sometimes they're not. You know what I mean? Sometimes there are just pure collectors, especially in Pokemon's case. Sometimes there are majority players. Magic the Gathering is a case like that. And sometimes it's pretty much both, which MetaZoo is very much that at this moment. Again, they are all that, but there's different ratios depending on the product and game. But anyway, the need that a collector has is to collect something that is valuable, something that gives them pride and pleasure to own as a collector of those items. That is what the chase card ultimately fulfills, is that need that a collector has to have something rare, something that not everybody has, and that the people that actually want it can look at it and be like, oh yeah, that would be really cool to have in my collection. I would really like to have that. And it gives you and your collection a sense of importance in the marketplace for these particular items that you have. That is really the ultimate goal of most collectors out there. It's fun to play the game. It's fun to be able to have cheap cards and play, but having those chase cards is really vital to having a strong collector base, a strong investor base, and a strong customer base. At the end of the day, without money coming into these companies, without money changing hands for the cards, for products that are being produced, printed, manufactured, shipped, sent to the customer base, without them actually paying cash money and a decent amount of it to compensate for all of the overhead, for all of the everything associated with the production and distribution of a card game, there needs to be a lot of money sloshing around in order to fulfill all of the financial obligations and requirements to make it a viable thing to continue moving forward. So chase cards are essential. They're essential. So I wanted to make this video just to reiterate these points and maybe introduce these concepts to anyone out there that may not really fully appreciate or grasp the concept of a chase card and why it is actually important to have cards that are worth more than others, even if they're considered game pieces, even if it may make the playing field look a little uneven at times. The chase cards are super relevant if you actually want to play the game that you love, if you actually want the game that you love to continue to be a thing and continue to be made and produced, purchased, and loved. Yeah, see there, guys, I get a little bit passionate when it comes to the chase cards. They're one of my... It's one of the things that really has kept me going for many of the years in the collectible space, and it's one of the things that I hope continues throughout the majority of it moving forward, because without the chase cards, you lose such a vital piece of the actual card game and collecting experience. They're so vital. So for the people that want common versions of every card, you know, just really understand what you're actually asking for. So to end the video, I will simply say that trust is extremely important in anything in life. This comes to, I mean, literally anything: relationships, politics, employment, various contracts, whatever it is that you're trying to talk about. Trust is an extremely important thing. And if a customer loses trust in a brand or loses trust in a company, then that is going to be far more detrimental than a few squeaky wheels who may complain about certain prices being high. If you know what I mean. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for coming by and checking out this video today. If you liked it, please do give it a thumbs up. It greatly does help with this channel and the algorithms and all that. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, as well as, of course, pack openings, grade reveals, things of that nature, and more lighthearted content and random product reviews as well, definitely subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for coming by. I really do appreciate that, guys, and I hope to see you again next time. Take care.